So you will need a red cabbage, a chopping board, a sharp knife, some scales, some measuring spoons, a couple of bowls, some salt, and a kilner jar. A rolling pin and a shot glass are also quite useful. You'll see. So the first thing we're going to do is cut out the core of the cabbage and take off some of the outer leaves. Don't throw these away, we're going to use them later. The next thing we're going to do is weigh the cabbage so we can work out how much salt to add to the mixture. Here I get just under a kilo of cabbage, so I will just use under a tablespoonful of salt. So chop up all the cabbage roughly and put it in a large mixing bowl, and then add the salt just under a tablespoon here because I've just got under a kilo of cabbage. Then give it a good scrunch, work all the salt into the cabbage. The cabbage will become wet, it won't become sopping. It will release more water when we stuff it in the kilner jar. So just keep squeezing it for about 5 or 10 minutes until it's nice and wet and all the salt's worked in. So stuff the cabbage into your kilner jar, packing it down tightly. You can use a rolling pin or something similar to help. Add any remaining juice from the bowl. Don't fill the jar too full, just fill it up to the shoulder, because the more water will come out of the cabbage while it's fermenting. It will expand, and if you fill it too full, the jar will just overflow and make a mess. Take the outer leaves of cabbage that you put aside earlier and put these over the top of the rest of the cabbage. The purpose of this is to keep everything under the liquid and away from oxygen, because any bad bacteria, likes oxygen, whereas our fermentation is anaerobic, it doesn't want any oxygen. And take the cores, and the purpose of these is also to help keep everything underneath. And I use a shot glass as well to keep everything up tight against the lid, so I can close the lid, and that shot glass presses everything else, all the cabbage under the liquid. And you can see that lots of liquid has come out there, and so I've not had to add any extra liquid to cover the cabbage. If yours is dry, you can add a bit of bottled mineral water to make sure all your cabbage is under liquid. And I add a label to my jar so I know when I made it. Put your jar somewhere convenient, like a shelf in your kitchen at room temperature. Then every day you need to burp your jar. You do this by just opening the lid slightly. And the reason for doing this is that as the cabbage ferments, it gives off carbon dioxide, and this builds up the pressure in the jar, so you don't want the jar to explode. So on a regular basis you need to release that pressure and let the gas out. So I do this for about 7 days, or until it stops bubbling, and then I put it in the fridge, and by the end of that period you'll have some delicious fermented pickled red cabbage that you can have in a meal like this, which is tuna salad and boiled eggs and fermented red cabbage, and it was delicious.